There's something rotten in the CDL schools that's making US and Canadian highways extremely dangerous. The CBC did a hidden camera, hidden microphone documentary, and they went into several truck driving schools in Ontario. Many of them know what the local testing requirements are. For example, if it's a straight back, that's all they test the student for. If it's an S back, that's what they're going to train the student for. They know what the local area testing is by the government, and that's all they train for. They cut the school part out, they cut all the other training out, and they're putting unqualified truck drivers behind the wheels of 80,000 pounds of rolling death.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has lodged an arrest detainer for Rajinder Kumar, a 32-year-old Indian national and alleged criminal illegal alien charged with criminally negligent homicide and reckless endangerment after a fatal semi-truck crash in Oregon that killed a newlywed couple.
Oh, what's going on, good and wonderful people? It's Sage here, back with another banger today. So it has been a very, very crazy week in trucking, from the CDL audits discovering that damn near half of all CDL schools are fake and illegitimate, to the fact that Prime Meek had 17 rollover crashes. As a result, they're going to implement a second inward-facing camera. And then, in addition to that, we have two tragic accidents that happened on the West Coast. Allegedly, one of them involving an illegal immigrant truck driver, rather. Not really sure about the other truck driver, but he was also unqualified to operate a semi-truck. So yes, this video is actually unscripted. I'm just going to go through my notes here on my laptop with you guys and just react to it in real time. So let's just start with that CDL crackdown that happened earlier this week. So the FMCSA, they actually did an audit on all CDL schools, about 16,000 nationwide trainers, and they found that 3,000 of them are fake and illegitimate, so they kicked them out of the registry. In addition, another 4,000 CDL schools have 30 days to get their stuff together so they can also be legitimate. Otherwise, they will also be kicked out.
If you're not compliant, you're not supposed to be issuing licenses to people because those licenses are fraudulent. We could see thousands of trucking schools completely go out of business in the next 30 days. The crackdown has started. There was a whistleblower who at DOT stops, when somebody found the truck driver was not able to speak, read, or write in English, would call a supervisor, and the supervisor would just let them stay on the road.
So yes, that's 17,000, look at me, 7,000 out of the 16,000 CDL schools in the nation, which of course means about half of all CDL training is not legitimate. Now, I actually talked about my CDL school a couple years ago. I did a review. It was called Three Rivers Trucking School. They were a fully accredited trucking school, so don't think this really applies to me necessarily. However, the school did shut down. They didn't last very long, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, it really is. But yes, I did a review on them. If you guys want to check it out, link in the description box down below. But overall, I definitely could have done better. Now, looking back at the time, I had to pay out of pocket, and that was the best I could do. So yeah, there you go. That's how I got my CDL. Now, let's talk about the two crashes that involved the immigrants. That one of them was here illegally, not so sure about the status about the other. I know Mother Trucker News, he covered both stories back to back. It was kind of confusing because I thought it was a follow-up on the channel, but no, these are two separate crashes. One happened in Oregon, the other one happened in Washington. So let's talk about the one that happened in Oregon. So a couple was actually heading to celebrate their honeymoon. They were a newlywed couple, and tragically, a semi-truck driver jackknifed and blocked both lanes on the highway. The truck driver, his name is Rajinder Kumar. He's an Indian national, and he was actually here in the U.S. illegally. So he failed the CDL test multiple times, including knowledge tests, air brakes tests. He was not English language proficient, but he still managed to get a CDL through California's licensing loopholes, which is why, once again, Secretary Sean Duffy wanted to defund the state of California, but I believe that California Governor Gavin Newsom actually folded to the FMCSA, to the Trump administration, to Sean Duffy, and he's actually going to be compliant now. given what's going on with situations like this, because it's happened a lot this year. This is what, the third or fourth story out of California, an illegally issued CDL out of California, and as a result, the truck driver caused a fatal crash. Last week, I covered the situation with Kimberly Bartold, a TikTok trucker that got into an incident, and it was caused by a driver that did not meet the English language proficiency requirements, likely got his CDL also from California, or even one of those CDL school mills that are not legitimate. But yeah, situations like this are the reason why the FMCSA is trying to do what they can to crack down on CDL schools, to crack down on illegitimate training, to enforce English language proficiency, supposedly. Part of me still believe it's smoke and mirrors, but they are doing something, I guess. Now let's talk about the other incident out of Washington. Again, Bonehead Truckers, not Bonehead Truckers. I get these two channels confused. Mother Trucker News, he covered this story too, and it was about the story out of Washington State, actually. So this truck driver was a car hauler, and he hit a school bus. And this truck driver, he had no medical card, he had no insurance. He jackknifed on the I-5, and he slammed into a school bus and multiple vehicles. So it doesn't seem like there are any fatalities reported, but again, somehow, some way, this truck driver was able to operate despite not having any of his stuff together.
Troopers say the driver of this car-hauling semi was going too fast and slammed into a school bus and hit other cars.
And we actually dispatched some commercial vehicle enforcement officers to our scene to do a full-blown inspection of the truck itself and the paperwork that all semi-truck drivers are supposed to have on them.
That inspection found the driver did not have a commercial driver's license or insurance or a required medical card.
In this situation, there's a lot of negligence involved.
As crews worked to clear the highway, the driver of the car hauler was hauled to jail.
Operating a commercial vehicle without a CDL is a gross misdemeanor within the state of Washington. It's a very serious thing, obviously.
4 people had to be taken to the hospital. All were told with minor injuries.
Thankfully, there were no fatalities involved. So that's what's going on with the incidents, and then the CDL schools shutting down and possibly them being interconnected, because that's actually pretty concerning that damn near half of CDL schools and CDL trainings are illegitimate. But let's talk about what's going on with CRST. Now, CRST is a company that is one of those major mega carriers. I think that they only do teams similar to, what's that other company? Covenant Transport. Yeah, so apparently it was reported by FreightWaves that they shut down their OTR operations. Now, this news spread it like wildfire, only for them to actually make a retraction statement, because this was misinformation.
People were emailing me. Does that mean that they're closing down? What does that mean exactly? And so, FreightWaves actually recently, just probably within the hour, got another update, and I was waiting for this. And it says here from their article, which I'll put the link down below so you can read. It says, update, CRST confirms partial fleet reduction and redistribution. So the headline first sound tough, right? Shutting down their over-the-road operations. Now it's a partial fleet reduction and redistribution. So
yes, FreightWaves actually corrected it in an article and apologized and said that CRST is not, in fact, closing. They're actually restructuring, or I guess downsizing. So this is what's actually happening. It says here 100 trucks are being redeployed, around 200 trucks are being retired, and over 300 employees are being affected. That's what happened. So, no, the company itself is not shutting down, despite numerous reportings by other news channels and FreightWaves reporting it first and having to embarrassingly make a retraction statement. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that I only post once a week so I can wait for all the facts to come out. I don't know. I do want to post more during the week. I'm just so busy with my job. But hopefully that does change in 2026. We're just going to have to see. Now, I do want to touch on this. This is the last story that I want to talk about, and it's actually pretty interesting. And it's about good old Prime Inc. I love talking about Prime Inc. They're the greatest trucking company. And unfortunately, they're having issues with their drivers. Now, they implemented this Netrodime inward-facing camera system back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. It's almost 2026, and despite the cameras being in the truck, and despite the cameras trying to pick up on fatigue driving, because these are AI inward facing cameras, they tell you if you are dozing off. They have an alert system and whatnot that goes off. Apparently that's not working, because Priming had 17 rollovers this year alone, and they're tied to fatigue driving.
Last year, when they decided to put those cameras in, the AI cameras, they lost a lot of credibility and everything, and they lost a lot of drivers. There were a lot of drivers that left because they didn't like those cameras. And, one of the things that they said was that bringing the cameras in would stop fatigue driving. It would help. It would, manage, because while you're driving and you're falling asleep, if you have a camera that says, stay alert, it's going to wake you up.
Despite having the Netrodyne inward-facing cameras, the backlash that, was resulted from those inward-facing cameras, they're going to double down and implement a second inward-facing camera, even though the Netrodyne camera is supposed to be able to pick up on fatigue driving. That's interesting. And at one point, the owner, Bobby Lowe, he was actually in favor of not having any inward-facing cameras at all on the truck.
I was personally not a fan of inward-facing cameras due to, I think, the common concern of privacy for our drivers.
So yes, we went from not being in favor of the inward-facing cameras to implementing the Netrodyne AI inward-facing cameras to it not really doing much, because drivers are still driving fatigued and causing accidents, even though that was supposed to reduce it, to now having 2 inward-facing cameras on the truck. Now, I haven't looked into the reactions from the truck drivers in the Prime Inc. verse. However, I first heard this news from a former Prime Inc. driver, trucker Kiersey. Did a video about her a few months ago. You guys go check her out. Subscribe to her channel. She's awesome. But yes, if I can find some clips of drivers reacting to it, I'll put it right here for you guys to see. So all these stories, and how are they all connected? Well, first things first, I can only make videos once a week, so I have to do the best that I can. And I decided to, break all 4 of these news stories to you guys. But all in all, I think that, drivers, they're not being properly trained. There's fraud in the industry. Obviously, we've been talking about that all year. And they're illegal and unqualified drivers on the road. There are fatigued drivers on the road. And as a result, there are accidents and incidents tied to each and every one of these. It's obviously, a fault in the trucking industry. And it seems like the FMCSA, they're scrambling to fix a broken system, even though they're not necessarily doing a good job at it, in my opinion, given the story that I broke last week involving TikTok content creator Kimberly Bartold, who was involved in an incident with the truck driver who was also here illegally. And she said this:
ultimately, it's a publicity stunt at best, because these drivers are climbing right back into their truck after they cause these accidents or get these out of services and continuing to pose hazards on the road. You asked what happens when a driver gets put out of service for failing an English test. The answer is they continue to drive that truck until they take somebody's life.
So yes, the system is broken, the training is broken, licensing is broken, dispatch is broken, everything is just broken in trucking, and unfortunately, crashes are going to keep happening, especially during this winter time. So that's everything in trucking this week. If you guys enjoy content like this, hit the like button, comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I am Taja Ellison, and I'll see you next time.